Now, that's a big question. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or however long, that would never have been a question. But now it is. So I want to get you guys thoughts on that, because I've been in conversations surrounding these type topics before. And it's interesting how people think. Yo, what's going on, people? Yeah, man, I'm back. I know it's been a minute, man. I've been kind of under the weather. I know I said that on a previous video, and I thought I had it under control, but yeah, man, came back with a vengeance. But I really think that I'm good now. So yeah, I'm about to get back on these car chronicles or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? Just getting back with my people, just tapping back in, with my fleet, tapping back in with my community. I am Johnny Fleetwood, and this is Mentality Fleet. And I just sometimes, man, I just have to rattle off stuff off my mind, have to get stuff off my mind, off my chest, things that's going on in the media, things that, I talk about in my conversation circles, my conversation stations and things like that. And I just want to bring it to, you guys. I want to bring it to my community and see what you guys think about it. So what I'm going to talk about now, what I'm going to talk about today with you guys is, man, I got a question. And my question is, what's the difference between gender and sex? Or is there a difference? Because some kind of interesting happened on Capitol Hill, and I just want to kind of touch on that to start off the conversation, to get you guys to kind of get your thinking caps on, get your mind working, and try to see, just think about what you feel like the difference is, if there's a difference in that definition. But yeah, so here's what happened. There was a committee hearing on Capitol Hill, and one of the lawmakers was misgendered by, I think it was a Republican congressman. And this lawmaker is the first openly transgender lawmaker on Capitol Hill or in Congress. And this Republican lawmaker referred to, I think, her, him, or whatever. I don't want to get all into the pronouns or whatever. But the lawmaker's name was Sarah McBride. So this congressman called her a he or a mister or something like that. I'm just gonna drop the clip right here so you guys can see it. You can see it for yourself, and you'll see where I'm going with this question. So I'm just gonna drop that right here, and let me know what you guys think. When I come back, we'll finish talking about it. I'll ask the questions, we'll get right into it. But here's the clip right here.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America, please?
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
So you guys saw that, right? So they was getting ready to start the hearing, and this Republican congressman, referred to Sarah Albright as Mr. So there was somebody, I don't know if it was a speaker or somebody, I guess it was a moderator or something. I'm not sure who the person was, but they stopped it, and they wanted this congressman to readdress Sarah McBride, and he refused. So they just stopped. They just went ahead and just, adjourned the meeting right then, which is kind of interesting, kind of crazy. I don't know what you guys think about that. You can, drop that down in the comments. Let me know how you feel about the way that was handled right in the moment. But my question is, what's the difference between sex and gender? Now, that's a big question. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or however long, that would never have been a question. But now it is. So I want to get you guys thoughts on that, because I've been in conversations surrounding these type topics before. And it's interesting how people think. Sometimes some people say there is no difference between the two. Some people say there's definitely a clear line between gender and sex. But how do you address it in different settings? So let's just say if you're around someone and you know them to be a man or a boy the whole time you've known them, and then they switch genders and they decide to be a trans woman or a trans man. How do you address that? Do you start calling them Mr. when you've known them to be Mrs. or a girl their whole life, or do you switch it? If it's the other way around, you start calling them Mrs. when you've known them to be a man their whole life or a boy their whole life. And if you decide to, continue calling them the gender or sex that you've known them to be, is that disrespectful or is that like inconsiderate? Like, how do you approach that? And then other than that, like where does it end? Where does it stop? Because what if someone's black and they want to call themselves white and they kind of pass as white, but you know that they're black? Or what if they're, black and want to call themselves white, or they want to call themselves a chicken or a duck or, whatever. Or now I've heard this is very interesting. So I think there's a term for it as well. It's if, someone identifies as a younger person. So if there's a 21, 25, 40-year-old male and they identify as a 15-year-old because, they look 15 or they live their life as a 15-year-old, or they could pass as a 15-year-old, and they want to date a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, someone that's around their age, should that be accepted? Or like, would that be, if they identify as that age group, would that be against the law? Or would you be inconsiderate, or would you, be disrespecting them by calling them out, at their age? Because obviously that they're over 21. Obviously that they're not 15. But they live their life as a 15-year-old and they act like a 15-year-old. They carry themselves like that. They behave, so what do you do in that situation? Because I think that's beginning to be a thing from something that I heard. And it's crazy because like it's a slippery slope. Once you start doing one thing, where do you draw the line? Where do you stop it? If someone feels like they want to be a woman and they actually were born a male, and you have to accept that, why not accept somebody that says that they're 15 when they're actually 35? Where do you draw that line? And you may say, well, something is against the law, or yeah, that's common sense. No, everything is common sense when you're dealing with this. Gender and sex, in my mind, the way I look at it and the definition in my head, I have to look it up, and maybe you guys can do it as well. Or you could just, let us know down in the comments how you feel about it or what you've heard through your research. But I think male, female, is just like, it's no difference between sex and gender. If you're born a male and that's what's on your birth certificate, then if someone calls you a male, I don't think that is disrespectful, even if you're living your life as a woman, or you feel like people should address you as such, as a woman, and the other way around. And then you have like, now competing in sports events. Men we're genetically superior as it pertains to, physical attributes and like our physical abilities. So if we were born a male, even if I'm not sure how this works, but even if you're taking hormones and things like that, I still think that in my mind, in a way, it's gonna be an advantage on your end when you're dealing with a woman or a female that was born a female, as born a girl, and then you're a boy and you're competing in those events because you feel like, or you think in your mind that you should be able to do that because you identify with being a female. Now, I don't think there's many cases where there's, girls that were born girls that switched over and now they're trans men and they want to compete in men's events, as sport and athletic events, because they're not going to be able to do that because they're not going to have those innate, or they're not going to have those natural advantages to compete in a men's event because they were just born female. It's just not going to work. So obviously the other way around, they're going to have advantages even if they're feeling like they're a female in their minds. And there's proof to it. Most times, there's a lot of examples that you can look up that shows that, trans men or trans women has an advantage as it pertains to, athletic events and competing in the athletic arena. you know. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's, to me, that's like common sense. And also, Trump did an executive order to only make 2 genders and only 2 sexes, just male and female, and that's just it. So if you're in a setting where someone wants to be addressed as female when you know that they're male, I don't think it's wrong, against the law, inconsiderate, or disrespectful in any kind of way to address them as such, because, you know, that's pretty much what the law says now. So, I mean, it's up to you how you feel. I'm not trying to tell anybody to, you know, address anybody in any kind of way. If you feel like someone looks like a, you know, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, then you can call it a duck. This up to you. Everybody has their own, you know, free will to address people, places, and things how they want to. But you can't like make people, you can't force people or bully people into addressing you a certain way when you know that you weren't born that way. If they don't see you like that, and you're actually not a biological man or a biological woman, then, you know, in my opinion, it's confusing to people. It's like you're bullying them or making them do something that they may feel like it's unnatural to do. So, and at the end of the day, the question is, what's the difference between gender and sex? Because someone brought this up in one of the conversations that I was a part of, and they said, well, you know, when you're born, on your birth certificate it has gender, and the gender is either male or female. I don't think it says sex on there. I have to go back and look, but that's what what someone said in the conversation, that it says gender and it says male or female. So if you're born a male or born a female and it says your gender is a male or your gender is a female, then I don't think that being a male or a female is some societal construct that's been created for you to identify with woman or man, or male or female. I think gender is actually sex. You know, I think they're interchangeable. They're one and the same. They're interchangeable, and they're one and the same type definitions. I don't see a separation in that. But that's just me. You know, maybe you may see a difference. Drop it down in the comments if you see, you know, if you have a difference of opinion, man. Let's just talk. Let's get the conversation going, because this seems to be, you know, a slippery slope. And you know, people see things differently. You can get on a discussion panel and have 10 people, and 5 people will probably think one way, 5 people will probably think the other way. But how do you address it in society? How do you address it in professional settings? Like the example that I gave you guys, where they was having the hearing on Capitol Hill. How was that congressman supposed to address Sarah Albright? Or what was fair, what was unfair? Like, how does it make him feel to have to adhere to something that's not a law, or something that he feels that goes against his common sense, versus being courteous, polite, or just being considerate of someone else's feelings, even though you may not agree with it? You know, so I know I've been rambling. You know, it's been a minute since I got on here and, you know, talked to you guys or whatever. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to start a conversation on that. And maybe you guys can add to the conversation down in the comments. I want you to engage. I want to see you guys engage. I want to, you know, see who's listening to what I'm doing, my content. And, you know, I'm going to start doing more. You know, I kind of got a little relaxed because I was under the weather, like I said earlier. But anyway, that was something interesting that I saw, and I just wanted to bring it to you guys. You know, I'm just sitting in the car kind of rambling, just trying to get some stuff off my mind and getting it on.